What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Campus Cuts podcast, an intergenerational multicultural show that brings students, faculty, community members, athletes, entertainers from all walks of life to be able to chop it up in the barbershop. I'm your host, Tanaka Tava, and today I got a special guest. I got an international public figure, a creative entrepreneur, a podcaster, an author, and somebody who has really put it on the map for the UK. And somebody that's just doing some great and amazing things, and his meteoric rise within the field of entertainment and media. One of my personal influences that I look up to, I'm like, man, this guy is doing it. I can do it too. Welcome, Zuby, to the show.
How's it going, man? Happy to be here.
I'm blessed, man. I'm blessed. It's an honor having you on here, man.
Good.
Yeah, yeah, man. So of course, I gave you that little introduction, but way how I start this podcast out is let the guests introduce themselves. So, what is your name, your occupation, and then where you're from?
Yeah, sure thing. So my name is Zuby. I'm an independent rapper, author. I wrote a book called Strong Advice. I'm also a coach, public speaker. I got my own podcast called Real Talk with Zuby, all around creative entrepreneur. But so it all started out for me with my music. That's what people initially knew me for. And now people know me for a whole lot of things. People know me from my podcast, my social commentary, my social media, all kinds of stuff. I'm not really a one-trick pony. So many different things to many different people. In terms of where I'm from, that's a little bit complicated. I'm British born, British by nationality, born to Nigerian parents. I grew up in Saudi Arabia. I lived in the Middle East for a couple of decades. And when I was in Saudi Arabia during my youth, I actually went to an American school. So I'm kind of like a British Nigerian who grew up in Saudi Arabia and went to an American/international school. Been to about 35 different countries, traveled all over the place, done a lot of cool things around the world, featured on a lot of the biggest shows in the world. Like, I think you mentioned, Joe Rogan and Ben Shapiro, been on Sky News, Fox News, BBC, all kinds of things. And so that is what I am. I'm someone who's trying to find my way in the world and develop myself and help inspire and develop other people along my way.
Yeah, man, and you're obviously are doing that with your influence and all that. But of course, that's great that you're doing all of these things. But I think a question that I always usually ask majority of my guests is, of course, you do a bunch of stuff,
Mhm.
but who is Zuby? Who are you? Who is like the core of who you are? Dive deep a little bit deeper into that, man.
Yeah, sure. I mean, this is one of those questions that it sort of depends on what sort of level you wanna answer it at. If you want the kind of personality angle or the background angle or the what you do angle, I think I've talked about what I do. In terms
Right.
of who I am a Christian. I'm a child of God. I'm someone who believes I have a purpose in the world. My full name, Unzubechuku, actually means God's will or God's decision in the Igbo language of Nigeria. I'm from a very large and strong family. I have fantastic parents. I'm the fifth of five children. I'm an uncle. I have 9 nieces and nephews, two
Woo!
brothers, two sisters. I'm an uncle. I'm a brother. I'm a son. I'm a friend to a lot of people. I'm a mentor and coach to a lot of people. And I'm someone who is obsessed with the idea of potential. I'm obsessed with
Right.
the idea of potential and fulfilling my own potential and doing what I can in this lifetime to help other people to fulfill their own, whether that is in terms of taking care of their physical and mental health, in terms of them going after their dreams, building their own businesses. I love independence. I'm big on the idea of independence and autonomy and self sovereignty. I encourage people not to rely on the government or rely on other people or expect handouts or be entitled or see themselves as victims. I reject all of that. I want people to see themselves as victors, to see themselves as people who have potential, even if they haven't yet fulfilled it. In every angle, right? I think in the times we live in now, especially in the sort of modern world, especially in the modern Western world, I feel like two things we're really missing are perspective and gratitude. I think
Mm,
a lot of people lack perspective and a lot of people lack gratitude, and that is a big source of unhappiness and misery and people comparing themselves to others and seeing life as a zero-sum game, right?
right.
That's where the hater mentality comes from. That's where the victim mentality comes from, right? People think that if something good happens to someone else or someone else gets a pay rise or someone else's business does well, or someone else grows on social media, a lot of people feel like that's somehow taking away from them.
Right.
Whereas someone with a victor mentality allows that to inspire them. So as you were saying before we jumped on this call, you were saying, I've inspired you. You were saying Joe Rogan has inspired you. You were saying that, all of these people, these podcasters, people who are going out there in the world, those are inspiring you, right? You're not seeing it as like, oh, that darn Joe Rogan, if it wasn't for him, I would have that audience, right?
Right.
If he didn't get that deal, I could have got some of that money. If he didn't do that. And it's like, no, that's the wrong way to look at all this, right? I think it's great to be inspired by everybody, right? Anyone who you see who's successful, anyone who's achieving something, you can learn something from them, right? You can learn something from them. And so many people, and it's never been easier, especially with the internet, right? You can see how people operate. You can see what people are doing. You can be like, wow. And then you can connect with them, right? You can connect with them. You can email me and be like, man, I like what Zuby's doing. I want to talk to him. Let's get him on the podcast. What's the worst that will happen? I say no, right? That's the worst that happens. But no, I'm right here. We're now talking. And, who knows what this leads to. And there's so much opportunity out there that it sort of amazes me that so many people just spend this time like wallowing in this self-pity when we live in the most prosperous age in history, in some of the most prosperous countries in the entire world, right? Our ancestors would be laughing at the stuff that we complain about, right? They would be like, firstly, if they came to this age, they'd think that what we're doing right now is some sort of magic or witchcraft, right?
Right.
Like,
absolutely.
right? Let alone the fact that, we can beam this out to thousands of people around the world. And we just have this opportunity. I mean, you can sit in your living room and earn an income, whether that's through a podcast or a YouTube channel or selling ebooks or doing courses or freelancing. There are so many ways, so many flexible ways that people can make money, that people can learn, that people can be educated. People are talking about, oh my gosh, the cost of education is rising so much. I'm like, no, it's not. The cost of college is rising.
Right.
The cost of education is lowering. Education has never been cheaper than it is right now. You have so much access to information. If you want to learn how to do something from play the piano to learn how to like do electronics, to learn how to program, to learn how to fix a motorcycle, you can learn all that stuff for free or for very cheap. And it's all there. But despite that, it's like a lot of people hasn't really clicked for them. And, they'd rather just run around on YouTube and troll people or go on Twitter and, cuss people out. And it's like,
yeah, man, that is, and that's definitely very true. And of course, I was actually reading this book called The Almanac of Naval Ravikant, and I bet you listen to some of the Naval stuff and the understanding the idea of leverage, like the way that he put out a tweet a couple of weeks ago saying that, we are a monopoly. We have the opportunity to monopolize the internet because we literally have a space where we're able to broadcast our thoughts, our feelings, and ideas. Mm-hmm. And of course, with anything, you're more liable to get any backlash or feedback or any of that nature. But I guess that's the beauty and the nuances of these open forum platforms that we have. Mm-hmm. We're able to continue to not even just generate income, but to continue to generate influence in a way that is that can move people in order to do things that they can never imagine. Like I was just even like my dad was actually talking about this yesterday, how the very fact that, hey, you know what, sometimes understand that he always says math is easy. Of course, I'm Zimbabwean. I'm a first generation American, so meaning I was born in America and all that. And of course, and the African archetype: go to school, be a doctor, be a lawyer, do this, do that. I mean, of course, that was pushed, but then for him, he was like, he came here, him and my mom came here like with absolutely nothing. And I marvel with the fact that they were able to continue. Like he literally got lucky. He was reading a newspaper, saw a green card, and said, you know what, I'm going to apply for this green card. And I'm going to move any change to the trajectory of each and everybody's lives. Not only just for him, not only for my mom, my stepmom, but for everybody. After him, it only takes one thing. It only takes one person, one chance, one person daring to put themselves out there for a whole flood of everybody else to be inspired and continue to move forward with that. Like,
most definitely
wild. And now you do this in the digital age. They did that when there was no internet, nothing like that.
Yeah.
So sometimes I'm thinking, man, I don't know how I'm going to live up to that. Like, what?
Yeah, but you know that you have the potential to do so, and that's what should drive people. Like, it's impossible to fulfill your potential, right? It's infinite. It's
Right.
infinite. People often ask me what my goal is, and they say, I say, I want to have a positive impact and inspire over 10 million people. Right. I used to say a million people, but I think I've probably done that now.
Right.
Over 10 million people.
Literally, literally.
Yeah. 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 I think I've probably done that to some extent anyway. And so that's my goal. But I say 10 million just because it's a number, but it could be, if it's 10, if I can do 10, it could be 50. It could be 100 million, right? Maybe it could be a billion people, right? There's people who have inspired a billion people that's existed. So, the sky is the limit. And I don't put any cap on it. It's just like, with my God-given talents and abilities and my knowledge and my experience, we're all given different skills and different interests and different talents, but I recognize what mine are, and I want to use my voice and my abilities to help people in some way, shape, or form. And, I get messages every single day. I get emails every day. I get mentions every day from people telling me that I've inspired them or I've helped them or they've learned something from me or whatever it is. And to me, that's the best feeling, because I'm like, awesome, because that's totally aligned with what my actual purpose is, right? People who don't know me, people who don't get what I do, especially people who don't really, don't like me or think they don't like me, they sort of have this idea that, it's just like, oh, this is some way to earn money, or he's just saying this thing to be controversial, or he's just going against the grain on this. It's like, no, like there's a method to the madness. I actually have like a goal, a general theme that I'm trying to reach here. Even if I'm trying to, I've had people say, I don't know, every time I hit a new goal on social media, I'll normally announce it, right? When I hit 300,000 followers on Twitter, I'm like, guys, I just hit 300,000 followers on Twitter. Thank you, right? And you always get those one or two comments where you always get that comment where it's like, why do you care how many followers you have? And I'm like, are you insane? Like, how can you, what do you mean, why do I care about how many followers I have? Firstly, I'm a musician, right? I want people to reach my music. And yeah, of course, I'm a businessman. I have things to sell. But like, I'm trying to influence people. The more people who voluntarily are choosing to follow me, that's showing, okay, that I'm offering something of value to the world.
Right.
I'm offering, 300,000 plus people care about what I have to say. Right? They care about it enough that out of these 330 million accounts on Twitter, I am one that they have chosen to follow and to engage with and see, okay, this guy has some interesting stuff to say. I can get some value from this, whether that's some information or some entertainment. And that's why it matters, right? It's not just about like, oh, I can sell more books or I can sell more music or whatever. That's important too. But it's like, the bigger the audience and the more attention, especially in this economy, but always, right? Then the more you can do with it, you can leverage that in different ways.
Yeah. So let me ask you a question. Was it always your goal to continue to be sort of like a public figure? Like, how did you even fall or stumble to this? Because of course, I remember listening to your podcast and stuff and how, you studied, guys, like this guy is not a joker. Like he studied at Oxford. Okay. And studying computer science. And so, how did you even get into this field of, entrepreneurship and, of course, being able to build your personal brand where, you continue to gain and have an audience that has a dedicated following towards you? Like, how did you fall into that?
It all started with music. So when I was at Oxford in my first year of university, I started rapping just as a hobby. I've been a hip hop fan since my early teens. I was listening to a lot of different artists, Eminem, Nas, Jay-Z, 50 Cent, Dre. I was listening to a whole bunch of stuff. And then when I was 18, I just I actually wrote my first lyrics when I was stuck in an airport in Paris.
Right.
I had a long layover, had nothing to do, but I had my MP3 player, and I just started jotting down some lyrics whilst listening to some tracks. And then I spent a few weeks in Nigeria, and I was just writing when I was there. I just started writing raps and recording them on my phone, not anything super serious like, okay, this is what I'm going to do as a career. Just having some fun with it as a hip hop fan. And I started playing stuff to my family and my friends, whatever. And, they're like, okay, oh, interesting. Zuby's rapping, kind of, but like I had some ability. And then when I got back to university, one of my friends, Chris, had a basic recording studio in his dorm room. Right. So I'd go in there, I'd download beats off the internet, and I'd just go in there and record songs, right? It was, if I go back and listen to it now, it's a little bit rough, but, I was just, recording stuff, and attach it to an email and send it out to a bunch of people, or I just play the tracks. I was in university at the time, so you're always surrounded by other people around your age,
Right.
and I would just play my tracks to people, and people were like, "Yo, like, have you guys heard Zuby rapping? Like, Zuby's got some skills, whatever." And then I started doing some gigs. I started playing live,
Right.
and after I'd been rapping for about 7 or 8 months, I started recording my first album with my friend Chris. So I recorded a seven track album called Commercial Underground. I looked up online to see how to get CDs made, and I just did a short run of it. I just made 50 copies to start with, right?
Right.
Just made a run of 50 copies, and I sold them for £5 each. So just starting out with my closest circle, my friends, my family, I sold 50 CDs in, I don't know, a couple of days. And I was like, okay, people are willing to pay me for my music,
Right.
right? And I got some really positive reviews in some local papers and magazines that were like, Zuby is this guy is a good rapper. This is someone who you should be looking out for. I released my first music video, which got some play on TV here in the UK. BBC Radio in Oxford were playing the first single of the album, "Step Into Me," and I started to build a little bit of a name. And
Right.
people started being like, "Oh, have you guys heard about this Oxford kid? Zuby. He goes to this Oxford student. Oh, because I'm a student at the time, right?" And people are like, Oxford University rapper. Okay, that in itself was a little bit of a USP for me, right? Like
Right.
those things don't normally go together. So I became pretty well known in the city and in the university through my music. And then after I graduated when I was 20, and I already had my second album written. So I took a year
Right.
out. And I just did my music for a year. And I would just travel around to different cities all over the UK and just do the street hustle, right? Just sell CDs out of my backpack, travel around to different cities, talk to people, play them my music, and just sell my tracks, sell my CDs hand to hand. In total, I've sold over 20,000 albums. Over 25,000 albums around the UK, physical copies, hand to hand. So when I say like I've sold 25,000 albums, like that's literally like out of my own two hands. So that's
Wow.
something that and this happened before people started to see me blow up on a more international level. So anyone who thinks I just did a deadlift and got on Rogan and blew up like out of the sky, like out of nowhere, then they've missed the sort of prior 13 years of the story or so.
Right.
Yeah, so I released my second album, and then a year later, I moved to London. I had a job offer out of Oxford, right? So I had a job offer to work at a management consulting company. So I moved to London. I started working, corporate jobs, suit and tie stuff, still doing my music stuff on the side. And then 3 years into that, the careers were starting to collide a little bit too much. Both of them were progressing, but each one was holding back the other to a degree. And I knew, honestly, I did my personal thinking and the goal and setting my goals. And I thought, I need to pursue my music full time, right?
Right.
I have to do it. This is the time to do it. I'm still in my early 20s. This is the time to do this thing. And so November 2011, I handed in my notice and I left my job to go become a full-time independent musician.
How did your parents feel of that?
My parents have supported me from day one, man. My
Wow.
parents have
That's
supported me
amazing.
from day one. My parents come to my shows. My parents wear my merchandise. Every album I release, every T-shirt I put out, my parents always want to be the first to buy, and they don't want it free either. They always want to buy.
Wow.
So the first copy of every album I make goes to my parents, and so they'll be getting the next one next year. No, my parents are incredible. They're super supportive of me, and I think also it's that I think number one, I'm a highly educated guy, right? So I think there was that thing of, okay, even if I go and do this, even from my own perspective, it was like, well, my goal initially was just like, okay, I just got to keep myself afloat. Okay. I don't have a family. I don't have like a mortgage. I don't have like all these crazy expenses. Like, as long as I can keep myself going, sell enough CDs and T-shirts and whatever to keep myself going, then I'll do that. And, I managed that for several years. And then I started to, increase my merchandise brand. In 2014, I opened my first pop-up shop in a shopping center in the UK alongside my good friend Shaudo, who's also an independent artist. And from 2014 to 2018, we were doing the pop-up shops pretty much on a monthly basis in different
Right.
cities around the UK. So if you were walking through, certain malls in the UK, you might have seen us with our CDs and T-shirts and hats and hoodies out there, talking to people, taking photos, selling our merchandise, all that. So that was the sort of step up from the street hustle after doing the street hustle for several years.
Right.
And then fast forward to early 2019, and I post a tweet to Twitter where I identify as a woman and do break the British women's deadlift record. And at the time I posted that, I had 19,000 followers on Twitter, and I had about 45,000 across all social media.
Right.
And that was like a flashpoint. Right? that was a flashpoint. So that video went on to garner millions of views, millions of impressions, go viral around the world, UK, USA, Canada, whatever. And now, I'm getting, for the next months, last year was just insane. Last year was crazy, right? Suddenly BBC are calling me and Sky News want to talk to me and Joe Rogan shouts me out. And I'm just, suddenly all these people are discovering Zuby. But what happened is, the tweet itself didn't just go viral, but people discovered me through it, right? It wasn't like, okay, this is a one-off interesting tweet. It was like, oh, wait, hang on. This dude is interesting.
Right.
Oh, he's a rapper. He went to Oxford. He's got a podcast. He's into fitness and training. He's got like really interesting views on like society and culture and politics. He's not just kind of saying what everyone else is saying. So I was able to harness that flashpoint and my back catalog for people to actually get interested and invested in me. So people started following me and paying attention to what I'm doing, rather than it just being sort of like a one-off viral funny tweet, which everybody forgets about 3 days later. So I was really able to sort of snowball that into a lot of things. And then in the last year, September, October, November, I was out in the USA traveling to different cities. That's when I did all these big podcasts and news appearances and everything like that. I got invited to the White House a couple of times. I got invited to the Pentagon. I just ended up doing like all this mad stuff all across the USA.
Yeah.
I went to 10 different cities, LA, San Francisco, Austin, Dallas, Fort Worth, Atlanta, Nashville, New York, DC. I think I'm missing somewhere too. And it was just an incredible experience. And, I got to remember, like, I'm an independent rapper from England. Not even from London. Like I'm not even from this capital either, right? And all of a sudden, thousands of people around the world and in USA, like I'm in places I've never even been in the States before, and I'm getting people like, oh yeah, I know who you are. Like I saw your interview with Candace Owens, or oh, I saw you on Joe Rogan. Oh, like I think I saw you on Ben Shapiro. Oh, I think I saw you on Fox News, or I think I follow you on Twitter. Yeah, you're the guy who did that deadlift, or and so like it just kind of went crazy. So for me, ever since that moment, everything has just elevated. As we record this now, I've now got over 1/3 followers on Twitter. 600,000 plus across social media. So it's been like 2019. And then leading up into this one have been like a sort of like a 10x, 20x year for me. Things have just gone nuts, and I'm so grateful for it because it's stuff we've been praying for a long time. I know my parents, like, they've seen how hard I've been working since 2006, right? Like they've seen it from the beginning. My good friends, people who have like seen it and who haven't kind of just discovered me in the past year. They're like, well, okay, like what Zuby is getting and what he's going to get, like he deserves. Like this is not some overnight success. This is not, like this isn't like he's been putting in work. And, look, let me give you an interesting framing as well. Last year was the first year that I made more money independently than I did since I left my job in 2011.
Wow.
So from 2011 to 2018, every single year I was making less money than I had done in my previous job. So to all the people who are like, oh, Zuby's like doing music to make money, or he's a rapper because he's trying. I'm like, you don't understand. I was making more money before I was doing this. Like I have like sacrificed both stability and security and income to pursue what I feel like my purpose on earth is. And now finally, thank God, like now even financially things are starting to like reach a good level, right? Like, where it's like, okay, cool. But it's like, man, I mean, if you were to average it out, like I've been working for less than minimum wage for the past decade. So, and that's the part that that a lot of people don't see. People don't see
Right.
that.
Right.
I had years where I made losses.
Yeah.
The whole year, you do the balance, and it's like, I made a loss. I spent more money than than my business made.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Jeez. And again, they always say everybody thinks that all it takes is, I mean, it's true. All it takes is one, but people don't got to realize that how many times you have to look behind the scenes and see the culmination of the work, the grit, the perseverance, the sleepless nights, the frustration. Did you ever think at one point in time that you're like, man, maybe I should just give this up? Have you ever thought like that? I mean,
Man.
because of course, with each and every successful person, from Michael Jordan, Kobe, like there's days that it's gonna be like, man, I love it, but sheesh,
Yep.
hopefully this works out.
For real. For real. Um, you know, yes and no. Yes and
Mhm.
no. There have certainly been moments, especially when I was like, doing the street hustle.
Right.
Um, Keep in mind, this is someone who, a year ago is there in like, at JP Morgan in a suit, like having like corporate meetings with like clients and stuff, and is on a trajectory to, I don't know, go up and become a consultant and then a manager and maybe an executive one day and whatever. And now I'm like out on the street in some random city with a backpack talking to strangers, trying to like hustle them my CDs. And in my mind, I'm like, what am I? I'd have those moments where I'm like, what am I doing? Like, why am I? And you're out there on the street. I don't know if you've ever done any kind of like street promotion or like
Oh yeah.
direct sales or okay,
Oh
yeah, like people can be rude, man. Like I'm there, like chasing my dream. People are there, like trying to crap on it. People are, like, just being rude. People aren't paying attention. People are ignoring you. Whatever. You're being massively underpaid. You're staying in garbage hotels because you don't want to blow all the money you just made that day on
right.
like a nice hotel. So you're trying to really keep the costs down and everything. And yeah, I had moments where I was like, just, geez, what am I doing? Or I'm doing a gig, like I travel 4 hours to go perform in Manchester or whatever, and I get to the venue and there's like 8 people there,
Right.
but you still give them a show as if there's 800 people there. And these are the things that people go through, that musicians go through, that entrepreneurs go through, that people generally just don't see. People don't see this, right? They see because by the time people tend to see you, like certainly in music, but I think in most things, by the time people tend to see you, like you've already, number one, you've probably already put in at least like 5 to 10 years of work,
Right.
but also you're starting to like hit that successful stage. So
Right.
people kind of see that, proverbial tip of the iceberg.
Right.
And it's like, oh, okay. People are now looking at Joe Rogan and being like, oh my gosh, Joe Rogan just signed this, $100 million Spotify deal, $100 million deal, like that's what everyone was talking about, right? How many people are like, hang on, this guy, he started in 2009.
Right.
2009. He's put out 1,500 and some, like, do you understand like how long that 2009,
Right.
like that's a while ago, and to do it almost every day, and you're putting it out there, and for years probably barely making any money, and you're not even doing it to make money though, right? You're just
Right.
doing it, and you're doing it, and you're doing it, and then 1,300 episodes in, 1,300 episodes in, like it's and people don't. A lot of people don't see that, or they'll see a YouTube channel that has, oh my gosh, this guy has 5 million subscribers. I'm like, yeah, he used to have none. He used to have none. I like going on successful YouTube channels and going to videos and then put like, order by date,
Right.
right? And you can reverse the order and you can go back and you can watch people's first videos,
Right.
right? And you can watch their first videos, normally garbage camera,
Bro.
garbage sound. They're all like shy. It's all awkward. A great one is, what's his name? Marcus Brownlee.
Oh, I actually saw
Marcus
that.
Brown.
I was
Have you
actually
seen his,
watching
have
that
you seen his
video.
first video?
Oh yes, and he was like
Yeah.
the camera and
Exactly. He's a child. He's a child, right? He's this little kid. He's there, like like on the quality is terrible. Now you watch his videos; it's so slick and It's like in quad, like HD, 8K. It's all smooth. The editing, you're just like, and people are just see, and some people will just see that now, and they're like, oh, I want to do what Marquez does. I want to be Marquez, right? I want to do that. And I'm like, oh, are you willing though to like, are you willing to not have that success until like 2032? Right?
And
Is that, are you ready to do that till 2032? Right?
woo,
Like that's the question. I started my music 2006. People really started paying attention to who I am like 2019
right,
on like a larger level. And it's like, are you willing and I'm still not there yet even, right? There's still a long way to go. And it's just like, okay, if you're starting now, say someone wants to start a podcast now, someone's like, I want to be the next Joe Rogan. And I'm like, okay, well, if you do stuff as quickly as Joe Rogan, then okay, it took Joe Rogan. So okay, so 2031, like are you willing to do 4 podcasts a week until 2031?
right.
If the answer is no, then maybe have like a think about what you're doing. Are you willing to do this without huge acclaim and massive success for at least 10 years?
Right.
um
Same with tech
and
companies. Same with Chris
everything, man.
Johnson. Like with everything.
Everything.
It
Everything.
time.
But and do you know why it's funny as well though is like, if you think about it, in most careers, that's not strange, right? If someone goes and works at some big company, right, you're not going to be a CEO in 10 years.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, if you come in at an entry level position out of university, you'd be insane to think that, oh, in 2 years time I'm going to be an executive. It's like, no, you're not. But like when it comes to other things, like especially anything creative or entrepreneurial, people like have this idea that the success is going to happen so quickly, right? You'll have a musician and they'll come out and people expect, oh yeah, like people expect someone to blow up in like 2 years, which can happen, and it does happen sometimes. But that's very much the exception to the rule. If you look at most successful musicians, before anyone paid attention, they'd probably been doing it for like normally at least 7 years,
Right.
and oftentimes a lot longer. So that's just the reality of it. And I think a lot of people who sort of are more sort of spectators, they just don't see what really really goes into all of it, and let alone feel the emotional up and downs of just of just having those times where you're just like, geez, like why am I doing this? So sorry, that was like a super long answer to your
No,
question.
no,
That
that's
was like a
great.
super long answer, but
No,
yeah,
no,
that's
that's fantastic because I mean, honestly, that's how I feel right now. I mean, shoot, I don't
mm,
have the best camera quality. I got a nice microphone. I leveled up because like the way
yeah.
that this first started. I started in. I shout out to Kev Steverson. Shout out to Juan. Like with this project I was telling you before, pre-recording was it literally started with a little iPhone.
Mm-hmm.
My iPhone. This iPhone right over here.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, of course, um, the director, deputy director, whatever that title was.
Yeah.
And so I had this little office, right? But I was also like the vice president of the Greek Council, and where we had this office. Of course, on my campus, the white fraternities, sororities have this nice big building, and of course, the black sororities and fraternities, we got this little coat closet. And I'm like, well, you know what? We're gonna work with it anyway. Doesn't
Okay.
matter. Um,
Did
and
you
then
just say that you have white fraternities and black fraternities?
yes,
Is
yes.
that's how y'all roll out there?
Oh yes, because of like MPAC back in the 900s, right? So like, of course, it actually started in Cornell, where
Okay.
they did like due to racism back at the time,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
They couldn't have they couldn't be in the fraternity, so they decided to create their own, right? And so
Okay.
they're still happening today, right? Um,
Interesting. Oh, that's
it's
interesting.
yeah, very interesting, right?
Okay.
And
Yeah, that
so
that to someone in the UK, that's so foreign.
I right
Yeah, that's so foreign.
right.
That's like, wait, what? When you said it all casual, I was like, wait, hang on, like, what did you just say? Like, especially when you said the white ones have like all this nice stuff, and the black. I was like, wait, what?
Yes,
Hang on.
yes. It'd be like that unless you go through an HBCU or whatever. Bro, it's the world is very backwards, but sometimes Uh, but anyway, point being, so I'm over here recording in our office, which is the coat closet. Love you, Baylor. And then from there, I just first started like recording, like, hey, Kev, would love to get your perspective about like how Baylor was for you and how you grew up. And he's a party promoter
Hmm.
and an entrepreneur as well. And it wasn't even like necessarily geared, but I just wanted to grab my friends and just wanted to talk because I love talking and communicating of different backgrounds and people. So it literally started first with an iPhone. And remember, and I used to hustle, like, well, still am hustling. Like,
Yeah,
hey,
man.
friends, like, would you love to be on this podcast? I would love to. Like, I love our conversations that we have with one another. Like, this,
Hmm.
let's just sit and chop it up and let's talk and let's communicate. And, at the time, I wasn't on social media. I was on a social media fast. God told me, hey, you know what? Get off. I'm like, cool. So I would
Okay.
just send a text message. this, that, send through my phone, blowing up my phone's French, recording like 5, 6, a day, whatever. And like
Oh,
I
wow.
had no intentions of trying to be like a podcaster, like for real, for real. It's just that it's something that I'm passionate about. And of course,
Mhm.
if you tend to follow what you're passionate, as cheesy as it sounds, but if you tend to follow what you're passionate about,
Yeah.
rewards do come from it.
Yeah, man.
And even today, no matter this little, success that I got, whatever, and that's actually the next follow-up question for you. Um, it's still, you still gotta go. You still gotta go harder because I mean, for me, when I look at it, I'm like, well, if I wake up today, that means one, I'm not done yet. Job's not finished. Shout out Kobe. But most
Hmm.
importantly, I mean, there's still purpose, and I'm not done until God calls me to come back home. So that
Real
means I
talk.
continue to get better each and every step of the way.
I hear that.
So I feel it right now. I'm like, oh man, even during the pandemic, this crazy thing, like a lot of people have had great years. I mean, I've had a
Mm.
great year. You had a great
Good.
year. A lot of
Good.
people have a great success. But then, of course, job's not finished.
Never, man. Never. Not until it's done. It's not done until it's
No,
finished.
it's
It's
not.
not. It's not over till it's over.
So, yeah, that's my follow-up question is like, I know this is so arbitrary and
Hmm.
so philosophical, but what does it mean for you to be successful? Like, what does success mean for you in terms of like, your embodiment of like,
Hmm.
what you're doing, how are you pursuing?
Yeah.
Because I really think it's really interesting and fascinating to, get to speak to different people. And of course, from Richard Branson and all that stuff, like, of course, it's not money. So I don't know. Because you kind of
Hmm.
do need money for freedom.
Yep.
But yeah, what does success mean to you?
Yeah, for real. Firstly, I think that I think of success in two ways. There's two ways I think of it. Number one, I think of it as a process rather than a position.
Mhm.
But then also you could think of it as like a position or a destination. So to me, like there's a process of success. So I feel like even if someone hasn't hit their goals yet, they can be successful in the act of pursuing them, right? Like they're on the right path and trajectory, and provided they keep going, they will fulfill that potential and they will hit those goals. So to me, that's if someone is on that path and they've worked that out and they've got the right mindset and everything, then even if they're temporarily broke in terms of their finances, or they don't have all the material things they want or everything figured out yet, to me that person is, you could have someone who's 20 years old and sort of is successful in that sense, in that they're on that right path, they have the right mindset, they know what they need to do to ultimately reach that level. For me, very personally, in terms of success, I mean, well, I think for everyone, I consider success, the culmination of health, wealth, and happiness.
Right.
I think it's a combination. I think if you have a lot of money but you're deeply unhappy and perhaps unhealthy, then I don't want to swap positions with you. So right, right. You'd rather be broke and be healthy. Yeah, I mean just those two, right? You'd rather be broke and be healthy than to have 10 million in the bank and have terminal cancer, right?
Right.
Obviously, right? Someone with terminal cancer, like they would swap with any healthy bodied person, even if they're broke, like totally broke, poor, destitute, whatever. They'd swap with them, right? Because at least they've got life, right? So I think, yeah, health, wealth, and happiness, and what those mean for different people, I think are different. So if you're talking health, of course you got physical health, mental health, your emotional well-being, spiritual well-being, all those last two sort of also tie into happiness. Happiness also then includes doing what you enjoy,
Right.
spending time doing things you enjoy, spending time with friends, family, relationships, your relationship with God, all those kind of things, come into happiness. And then wealth sort of speaks for itself. But wealth, again, it's not just as simple as having the biggest number possible in the bank account, but it's also about, how you're making the money, and perhaps detaching money from time,
Right.
and having a level of money that's, you are comfortable with to sustain your own lifestyle, right? It depends a lot. Like how much money you need depends a lot on your lifestyle, right? And even your position in life. So if you are a married father of five, who has like a house, then your income needs and your financial needs and expectations are not going to be the same as a a 25-year-old who is single and who doesn't have a lot of overheads,
Right.
etc. So I think, financially, I think you certainly want to be a level. For me, I want to be at a level where, like, number one, I don't even like need to think about money, period. Like, I want to be so rich that like money is not really a
Ransom
thing.
money. Ransom, FU money.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I'd love to be wealthy enough that like I don't really think about money. Like, it doesn't
Right.
cross my mind too much. And also that I can help people in like cool ways. Like, I already can help people, but like I want to be able to do like really cool stuff. I'd love to have the financial means to just be like, you know what? Like, I want to just like build a school, or I want to just like, help this person out who needs it, or I just want to be able to do this or do that. Like, I'd love to have that kind of wealth. For me, what motivates me a lot, just the way I'm wired these days is, when I was younger, I'll be real. Like, when I was younger, it used to be like, yeah, I just want to have like all these cool cars, and I want to have like this, and I want that. Yeah, it was very materialistic. But for me now, it's more like I view it more in the giving back perspective,
Right.
and I view money as like, to me, money is a neutral tool. You'll hear some people say, money is a negative force, or it's this, or it's great, and it's like, no, to me, money is just neutral, right? Money is neutral. You can do great good with it. You can do great evil with it, right? It's an amplifier, right? So if you are a great person who has good intentions and, really cares about people and wants to help people and is willing to do that out of their own pocket, then it's amazing to be rich and wealthy, because you have the opportunity to help. You can now, your cup is full, so you can pour it out to like everyone else who's thirsty, right? Not everybody else, but you can do your part to a large degree. Whereas if you have those same intentions, but you just lack the financial means, then, you can't do the same things. I say when you don't have money, spend time. When you don't have time, spend money. Right. I don't think I stole that. I think it's something I tweeted a while back, but probably someone said it before in some way, because no idea is original, but that's what it is, So even if you think about charity, right? You think about charitable giving. If you have a lot of money, then you can just be like, oh, cool, boom, I'm going to cut you guys a check for $50,000, right? If not, you can still help by volunteering and spending time, etc. But I think it would be beautiful to be in that position, to be able to, just give generously without it being this huge detriment to yourself or your own security or anything like that. So yeah, that's how I personally view success. And that picture looks different for different people, and people have different goals and different ambitions and different aspirations. But I think if you have a good combination of health, wealth, and happiness, then, you should probably consider yourself successful by your own standards, because other people's standards of success, they don't really matter to anybody else. It's a very personal thing.
Right.
It's a very personal thing.
Yeah. And then also, like, speaking on that, man, about like everybody else's opinion is different and varying. How do you cut out the noise? Like, and especially in this very notification pop, you have.
Oh man. Oh dude, I've had my notifications off since 2014.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, dude. No, like notification. I have no idea how people like. If I kept just on Twitter, I think I get over 100,000. I get over 100,000 a day. Like,
it's overwhelming.
Those things are off. Like, I barely even check my mentions. Like, I'll maybe once a day.
Yeah.
No, it's too much. It's too much. Once you reach a certain level, especially on social media, there's too much. It's too much noise. And also, I don't have a TV in my house. I haven't had a TV for 10 years. So I stay informed, but I have a healthy disconnection from irrelevant noise that's not going to add anything to my life or to my bottom line. So I don't watch the news every day and like flick through, spend 2 hours a day seeing what's going on in politics and what's and I don't feel like I'm missing out either. I'm still very informed, but I just don't go out of my way to do that. And also it's just depressing, it causes anxiety, right? Why are people so angry? People complain about anxiety and then they spend 4 or 5 hours a day on normal media and social media, like watching the world supposedly collapsing and a virus going around killing everybody and everybody losing their jobs and America being on the brink of destruction and this going on and that going. I'm like, that ain't healthy, man.
Yeah.
You know, your diet's not just what you eat. You know, your
Yeah.
diet is also what you watch. It's what you listen to. It's who you spend your time with. All of that stuff is your
Right.
diet. So if you're on a junk food information diet, then you know, you're going to process a lot of negative thoughts.
Absolutely, man. Well, of course, I want to be respectful of your time, man. So these are my last couple questions that
Sure thing, man. Go for it.
I usually ask. These are like my impact, legacy, wisdom questions.
Oh,
So, my very first question, bro, is um, that's okay. First one is, what are three things that you would tell to your 21-year-old self?
buy Bitcoin. Um, I love that. That's the first one, right? Learn a foreign language or a couple of them, and keep going. Things will work out.
That's good.
Yeah,
Nice, nice.
yeah. Keep
That
keep
that
going.
that that's good. That's good. Second question is, when do you know um when do you know it's enough? When do you feel like it's enough? Like when do you know it's like, you know what? I remember listening. I listen to this motivational video almost every day, of Kevin Hart and Joe Rogan. Shout out to the Mullican brothers, and it's like I can't press the reset button. Like I can't say but then when in life do you know it's like, you know what? I can take a step back. I know this is enough.
You mean like, what do you mean by enough? Do you mean like with a business venture or something you're trying to achieve, or
Yeah, yeah,
what?
yeah. Something that you're trying
Okay,
to
so
do.
when you say enough, like the state, you mean like give up, as in like back up and be like, okay, I'm not going to do this anymore. I'm not going to press on further. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, yeah, like, I was, like, having a conversation with my friend,
Mm,
and we were just talking about, like, "Bro, when do we know it's enough? Like, when do we know it's like, hey, you know what? I'm good. I'm
mm,
content." Because looking at it, like, biblically, Philippians 4, it says
mm,
Paul says, like, whether I am content in every circumstances, whether I have a little or not, I know the secret of life because I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me, right?
mm.
And it's like, oh, wow, we're living in this age where we're trying to get. And it's like, well,
Okay.
what happens? Of course, there's some might be a day where I'm gonna be like Job and everything be taken away.
That's a good question, man. I think it really depends on what we're talking about. Like, I think it really depends on what specifically we mean. I mean, there are some things that I think are like never enough,
Right,
right? You know, like I was talking about fulfilling your potential, and I'm like, no, I don't think there should ever be a time in your life where you're like, you know what, that's enough. I'm gonna stop going to the gym. I'm gonna stop like learning new things. I'm gonna stop developing myself. I'm gonna stop improving my relationships. Like, no, that should never be enough. You know, if you're trying to build your relationship with God, that should never be okay. That's enough. Like I've done enough. I can chill now. No, like that should always continue. If it's something like that's just not working, right? Whether that's whether that's a relationship that somebody is trying to like force their way through, or a business venture that's bleeding money, and you're throwing bad money after bad money. No, like you shouldn't keep doing that, right?
right.
That's insanity. So I think the answer depends on the specific situation.
Okay, that's a great answer. That is a
Yeah.
great answer. And my last question is, what do you want your legacy to be, bro?
Ooh, I want to be known as someone who made a dent in the world in a positive way. When I die, I want a lot of people to be sad. I want a lot of people to be sad because like I meant something to them. Yeah.
That's amazing. Well, the way that I usually close out my podcast is it's called my favorite segment, the Speak Life segment, because I believe James 2 says, there's power in life and death is spoken in the tongue. And I really believe in speaking life over people because
Mm-hmm.
it's important, especially in this day and age. So here we go. Mr. Zuby, I just want to say, man, your work is phenomenal. And I just want to say thank you so much for your wisdom, the way that you continue to elevate and live your platform that is authentic, that is rooted in you. It has just been a pleasure to be able to see your meteoric rise, and everything that has been given has been nothing but short of deserving. I mean, like how you mentioned how you love going back and watching everybody's first video.
Yeah.
I do that with each and every person that new person that I come across. I'm like, wow,
Okay.
it's so crazy to see the rise and how everybody from Russ to, Kobe to Serena Williams to, just so many great people, because
Yeah.
at the beginning of the day, at the end of the day, everybody had to start from somewhere.
Yeah.
And the way that you're continuing to do that without changing yourself for the worse, but continue to improve yourself for the better, and understanding that you're having this responsibility, but you're doing it in such a tasteful, respectful, and a way that is inspiring other people. I think you already have won multiple times, because I'm a product of that inspiration,
I
and
appreciate it, man. Thank you.
I'm just so grateful for you taking out the time and the ability to, honestly, like, this is made by day. December is my December.
Awesome.
The fact that, hey, getting a chance to talk and chop it up with such an amazing intellectual, great guy that is out there just going to continue to inspire so many people. So thank you for your service, man. I can't wait for the album to drop
Thanks,
next
man.
year. So yeah, man, just want to give you your flowers, and thank you, man. Thank you.
Appreciate it, man. Thank you. God bless you, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah, yeah. Where can the people find you at?
I'm on all social media at Zuby Music, Zuby Music. And if you want to check out my music or my podcast, just search for Zuby, Zuby, on iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, wherever you listen.
All right, y'all. And we